Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. By now we have 2020 and I thought I'd change up my YouTube game by actually presenting myself in the videos. The idea being that I want to have a better contact with you guys, so I actually have someone to look at when I am showing my Maya sessions or my 3D sessions in general. So before we jump into today's video, I just want to show you a really great book about architectural renderings, which is this book here. It's very amazing. It has amazing content and super talented artists in it, and they talk about their stories, how they achieved their renders. It's a book which has been partnered up with Evermotion and CG Architect, and I guess a few others. It's highly recommended, like especially if you want to amp up your rendering game. It has really great renderings. I don't think I should be showing them. You should actually get the book and look at them yourself. They're super impressive, very high print quality. And let's just show you at least the main partnering page here, which is this guy. So yeah, check that out. And obviously you will see where you can get the book, and there's some DHL shipping as well. So all I can say, look at this book. There's amazing content in this. Great stories and great tips how to get your renders looking a lot better, and definitely to be on par with those guys. It's really impressive. In today's video, I want to talk about the standard surface shader, and most of you should know by now that Autodesk bought up Solid Angle a while back. So Solid Angle is the company which actually produced the Arnold renderer. So they got bought by Autodesk. And by now they have their own, like Maya at least, they have their own shader called Standard Surface Shader, which is an adaptation from the standard Arnold Standard Surface Shader. So I just want to go over the basics. I did that quite a while back, I think with Arnold 4 2017 or something, a while back, as I said. And I just want to refresh it. So just give you guys a quick overview about the basic material attributes you have in the shader, and how to create at least like 90% of the shaders or materials without much texture work, or at least show you the basics. So why don't we just jump right into Maya and have a look about my setup here. Alright, so you can see this is a fairly basic scene. I will actually provide you with the scene so you guys can play along. It will be online on my Patreon website. So obviously you would need to sign up for that source files tier, and you will get grant access to all the different tutorial source files I have created before, plus this one and plus new ones which will to come in the future. So you will get the shader ball, the lights, everything. Actually, what you get in this scene I will upload, and you will have access to all these things. So I have a super basic shader ball. It's just pretty much a sphere cut up, and I just added some kind of metal bits in here and there just to show you some kind of more interesting sphere, I guess. Nothing too crazy. And then I also have reference files in here, like quite a few of them. Oops, let's go here. So there's all the shaders and whatnot. So I just want to go over them and show you what you can do with all these different materials. So this is now the standard surface shader. If you hit tab and you hit AI standard, you still obviously get the old one, or the currently the one which ships with Arnold, which is AI standard surface. But you also get the standard surface shader. If you just type standard surface, it's actually the one which comes in bold. So this is the one which is pretty much the one which comes with Maya Arnold. So this is pretty much the thing you should be using by now. That's what I was told is the one you should be using. It is pretty much the same interface. They stripped off a few things, and I think they changed names. So I'm not 100% familiar with all these things, but pretty much everything is as it was. So I think it's good enough to at least just go over the basics. So right now I have an active render session going. You can see the sphere is right there, so everything is actually pretty much live. And for instance, if I change the color now, you can see now everything should be updating, right? So I'm using Maya 2020, and I'm using this M2A version, Arnold Core 6.01, M2A4. Yeah, so what you can do with this shader is, like, you can create plastics, rubber objects, glass, translucent plastic, subsurface objects like wax or like gemstones. They all let light pass through. And then we have iridescent objects like soap bubbles or like insects, which have these, like, it's called a thin film interference, which is on top there. And emission shaders, so shaders which are actually emitting light, cloth shaders, obviously metals as well. And yeah, so in this session, I will just go over all these bits and pieces. All right, so let's just start with the basic plastic. So as you see, I have a running render session going. Let's just start with a super basic white clear, or it's almost like a cream colored plastic, which you can see it's super glossy, but it's like this cream color. So let's just pick this color. So I have a color picker here, and I'm just clicking not a spec surface, but pretty much a which is pretty much face on. So let's just click this color here, and you can see now we have this cream color on the top left. It might be a bit too orange, but let's just bring up the specular. So on the top you have the shader, you've got base colors, which is mostly your base albedo values, which is your base color, like is it red, green, or blue? And is the object rough or not rough? This is only for the diffuse though. It's not the specular roughness, it's the diffuse roughness. So this slider is actually changing the micro polygon, micro edges, micro surfaces of the sphere. So if it's more towards 1, it will get darker because more light is broken up on the surface, and it's a lot softer. Pretty much it's what you would use for dust or paper, or wood. Super rough surfaces would benefit from having this to 1, but typically you get away with 0, like on diffuse roughness on 0 with most of the surfaces. And you have the metal in the slider, which we'll be talking about a bit later when we do metals. But let's just jump over to the specular tab, which is your initial specular response to a surface, which is like a code pretty much. So I have a little overview down below here, and you can see the base material is the bottom with a spec, and then you have the air. So this is pretty much what we are modeling right now, is this one in the middle, this guy. But then there's also one with a coat, so there's also a coating on top of a specular lobe. But as I said, we will brush on that in a bit. So let's just introduce some, like obviously spec is default off, like this is actually without spec. So if I bring in a specular layer like this, you can see now it's super rough, and there's kind of a sheen on the sides, which is driven by the roughness. So if I have no roughness, you pretty much have a clear coat already. And you can see this is now more or less resembling this kind of shader. Obviously ours is a bit too dark, so we can just desaturate it slightly and just make it a bit brighter, and then we pretty much have that kind of shader. And for a basic plastic, this is all you have to do. Obviously most of the plastics have some micro scratches and some bump mapping, whatever, and we are right now not doing that. So for a basic plastic, this is what you would need to do. Right, if it's a bit scratched up and a bit rougher, you can change the roughness to maybe 0.1 or slowly increase it, and you can see now that the reflection is getting rougher and rougher until it feels like a soft sheen rubber almost, right? And then we have different kind of things. Like then we have this guy, which looks like a plastic, but it looks like there's some kind of halo around these reflections here, right? So you get this super clear reflection there, and then you also have this broader halo, I'd say, around it. It's more apparent here, but let's just work on this guy. So and if I would do this, I would model it with a coat as well as specular response. So let's just try to mimic this kind of a bit more complex plastic. So let's just pick this pinkish color here. Let's pick something around here just to get that color. And now the first thing we want to model is this outer, the broader spec. So we changed our roughness until we hit that spot, right? So I'm looking now at the roughness on these things here. So I'm just reducing the roughness. And you can see now we get this halo around it, which is pretty much all I wanted to have. And then there is also the code tab at the bottom here, which I just want on default, it's off. So I just want to bring that in by changing the weight from 0 to 1 like that. And now you can see we have this clear coat on top. Right now there's a roughness, so let's just reduce the roughness to 0. And this is similar now what we get here. I think our base roughness is a bit too strong, not strong enough, so let's just bring that up slightly. And then we have now a nicer fall off and you get this clear coat. And we haven't talked about the IOR yet. IOR is the index of refraction, which is also interesting for non-refractive objects like plastics or opaque objects. All it defines is it's how strong is the light being reflected on the edges of an object, pretty much. Excuse me. So, for instance, if this is on 1, we should almost have no specular response on the base layer, right? So this is now on IR of 1. The higher we crank this up, the more reflective the object gets. And metals, I think, are starting around 5 up to 50. So this would almost be a metal now. But we have a separate option in the metalness here to generate metals. So for glass objects, you try an IOR of 1.4. For transparent glass, it's 1.35 or something, and for water, it's 1.33. But typically for plastics, it's around the 1.5 range. So the default there is actually pretty good. Right, and then we have the coating here. So this would be a basic plastic as well. And obviously this is more rubbery, so this is actually super rough. You can see now there is no clear coat, but it's super rough. So let's just pick that color. We just pick it here on the shadow side somewhere, so it's almost black pretty much. But we don't have a coat, so let's get rid of this guy. And then let's just bring up the roughness here, maybe to 0.45. And now we have a similar result, right? You can see now it's pretty broad. This one has definitely more breakup, so that in here there would be a bump map and some scratch maps and stuff like that, which I don't have right now. And let's see what else we have. So we've got rubber and this orange plastic, which is pretty much the same as this one on the top, or the blue one, which is the same as this one, just the base color change, right? So I think the next interesting thing would be to go over metals. And you have colored metals, you've got brushed metals and super glossy metals. And all this is all achievable with this shader. So in the base color, you have this metalness slide, which I was talking about previously. And this goes hand in hand with the color. So if you want to have a red metal, you would want to pick a base color of a red. Let's say we want to, I don't know, let's just create this green thing here. So I just pick this color, like so, picking it. And now we have this green. Right now it's still treated as a dielectric. So dielectric is everything which is not conducting, pretty much. So plastics and I don't know, rubber and all these kind of things, like skin as well as a dielectric. But then if you want to have a conductor like metals, like aluminum or chrome or steel, you would change the metalness to 1. And then you see that your specular colors are changing as well. So now my specular colors are returning a colored response. So it's now green. It's not white as it was before, right? And that's pretty much defining what a conductor is. They have a colored specular response. Obviously now this shader is now treated as a conductor or like a metal. So now we have the option to change roughness values, right? So the same as before, if we reduce the roughness, we get a super clean metal like this. And if we want to mimic the green one here at the bottom, we can just slightly blur it out, something like that. And then we get that. Obviously they have blue light sources here and there. So this is why we don't have the blue right now, which is not a big deal, I guess. And then there's also this color in here, and you might think, for what is that actually? And you can actually hover over it and you get the information on metallic object or conductor objects. It is the color of the grazing angle. And gold, for instance, has like a little yellow sheen or like a little yellow edge color, and copper more reddish, and different metals have different colors. So it's hard to visualize it. I think, like, yeah, actually it works here pretty well. You can see now that the outer edge gets this kind of like really magenta tint, and this is pretty much what it's doing. This is now blue. If you want to have like more like a teal or a green, this is what the edge color does. So for metals, you should always pretty much always ever change it to something which is not white, which is the default. So it's kind of a slightly different color than the one you have in the top here, right? So to mimic this, we can change it to blue to get maybe a similar effect as this one at the bottom. And then again, we have the roughness, right? So this would be a basic metal like these guys. But then we also have, let's see if I actually have a example for this. Oops, let's don't move this guy. Well, this is pretty much, I think this is a rendering anyways, but, or maybe it's not. You can see that there's like this super hot reflection, and then there's this almost like flakes, and this, you can achieve that in a very similar manner as a coated object, right? So what you can do, you can say, oh, my base is actually a metal, which is, and then I have on top of that, I have a clear coat. So if I just enable the clear coat for this, you can see now that we have a super nice finish on top of this. And we can change the roughness slightly to be a bit more shiny. And then you can see now we have a very cool looking coating on top of our original rougher base. And this is, obviously we can change the color to this one at the bottom here. Just pick this guy. We add more color, like increase the value. And obviously we need to change the base color. It's a bit more orange than what I have. Maybe a bit more red. Yeah, so this pretty much comes into that realm. And this is now what is just adding the code. So if I remove the code again, you see that we don't have this nice hot core anymore. But if I bring the core back, if I bring the code back, we will get this nice hot code on top. And this is now what a coated metal is, or like a car paint shader. This is a way of doing this for sure. And let's go down the list. So now we have transmission, right? Transmission is a fancy word for refraction, pretty much. So when light enters a medium, it's being transmitted, and then this is pretty much what glass shader would do. So, oops. If you want to now mimic a glass shader, something like this, you can fairly easily do that. Let me just reset the shader. I have like a base preset here, which just brings us back to our original shader. And let's say we want to model a see-through object like this, right? So the first thing you need to know is a fully glass object does not have any diffuse contribution. So what you should be doing is just make sure your base color is black, or there's no weight in this. And then you just bring up the transmission to 1, and then this should pretty much do it. And you almost should get a see-through object, but now you can see it's almost like sandblasted. And the reason for this is my base presets has a roughness of 0.65. If I change this back to 0, we should have a super nice clear looking glass surface, which is this one. Right now, if you want to have a bit, let's say, if you want to have a rough specular but a clear glass, then if you want to change the roughness now, you will change both at the same time. So I will change, this will change the surface roughness while also changing the inside glass roughness itself. This is pretty much a physical phenomenon, but for artistic control, what you want to do is you don't want to use the roughness here. You just want to keep that on 0, and you want to remove the specular full on. So this is now only a pure glass without any specular, which is not photorealistic or physically correct. But to get this right, you can go to the code and bring that back. So now we actually have the same result as before, but now you have the option to actually have a different kind of specular response for the code of the object. So if I go to my AUV here and I check my code and I reduce the roughness for this, then you can see now how my code looks like, right? But if I then go to and to the beauty now, you can see we have, let's say go to this guy. this is now with the code, the clear coat, and then if I change the base to be super rough, I can do that as well. So now we have a fairly frosted looking glass, but then we have a pretty strong clear coat, which gives us some nice clear reflections everywhere. And this is one kind of way of doing this, but typically what you want to do is don't use a coat and just make sure you don't have a roughness, and then you just bring up the spec and you get a regular glass. So what if you want to do colored glass, right? Most of the glass you see all around you has some kind of color to it. So you've got green glass, blue glass. I think this is a bit yellowish. So what you can easily do is just change the transmission color. You can just do this by picking a color here. Let's say we want this green. Picking this, and now we get a green color here. Obviously, we want to make sure that our value is a bit better than just 0.24, so we need to increase that to get something more like this, right? You can see now we get nice green shadows and everything looks pretty cool. One thing to know though is that glass itself does not have a constant color everywhere. Like thick glass, for instance, looks a lot richer or more saturated and more darker than thin glass sheets. For instance, if you, I don't know, maybe you've got a glass countertop at home, and if you look through it from the top, it's pretty much see-through. But when you look at from the sides, you can see it almost gets like greenish and almost black. The more parallel you go to the, with your eye line towards the glass surface, you can see there's some thickness to this. And you can totally mimic that kind of effect, which is the physical behavior of glass in Arnold as well. And you do that with this depth slider. So if I bring this up really slightly, like 0.01 or 0.05, we should get a pretty dark response for this. Let me just restart the render. It doesn't really update properly on the GPU here. So a super low depth value pretty much gives you a black result, which is not what you want. So this is just telling the renderer at what kind of ray depth you want to get this color back. So at a distance point by 0.04, this is the color response pretty much. So I think this is now 30 centimeters big or something. So if you increase this depth maybe to 15, it almost will look like, you can see now these thinner parts, like here up here, they are like almost getting see-through. So it's not fully there yet. So if you increase this value even further, let's say 50 units, at some point your glass object will be pretty much see-through. But for thick areas like the base, it will still be very saturated. And you get the effect when in the ocean, especially like for shallow water, it looks pretty see-through, but then the deeper the ocean gets, the darker and more saturated it is. And this is a similar phenomenon. So especially if you have like glass objects, like, I don't know, some kind of sculptures made out of glass, this effect is very apparent because you have thin objects like arms and fingers, and you've got thick like the torso or head or something. So this is how you would do it physically correct. But for the most circumstances, just having a little saturation in a color gets you a long way anyways, and it's a bit faster to render it like this. And then you have scatter, which is some kind of modulation of particles within your object, and you can bring that up, and you should see that the object will get a bit like almost sandy looking or dusty looking. You can see now how smoky it is. And this is because of the scatter. So if you have a liquid and you want to mimic some kind of particles in it, this is how you would do it. Dispersion Abbey is a different story though. This is kind of the refraction of the light. Similar like you would see in a diamond pattern, that the light is actually traveling through the medium and it's breaking out different wavelengths. And I'm not fully sure if we can show this. Oh, we can. It just takes a bit of time to resolve. But for bent surfaces like here, for instance, you can see that the response or the light is being broken up and you get different kind of colors back. And this is what Dispersion Abbey does. Obviously this also is very expensive and takes a lot of time to render. But if you have the resources, I would say go for it. So this pretty much sums up the glass or the transmission. Then we have subsurface scattering, right, which is our next topic. And at the bottom in extra attributes, you should change the type to random walk v2, which is the new kind of algorithm to modulate subsurface scattering objects. And scatter objects are like objects like this, which let some light through, and some plastic, some wax, and even some stones or like kind of marble objects. They all let some light through, and this is called subsurface scattering. So light goes in and scatters itself inside it. So let's just try to just create maybe this red color here and then add some scattering to this. So also for scattering, you will not have any diffuse color. So disable that. I think the subsurface will do this automatically anyways. So by default, color 1, radius 1, scale 1. And depending on your scene scale, this is not what you want. You want to always have the scale to be appropriate to the result you want to get, I guess. So you have a multiplier of your scene scale pretty much in here. The color itself is the color you see with your eye. Like it's a color you would see when you look at the object, but not on the translucent side. So I'm talking about the color which is when, for instance, if the light would be off for the candle, let's say this is the color, like the color which when the light is turned off is what you would expect in the color slot. So this candle here has no light on, so we can just pick this red color like this, and then we should get that color on the top. And for our scatter color for the radius, I mean, you can see now that the color for this candle would be almost like a super pale yellow. This would be your radius color for this kind of material. And based on the scale, then you can achieve how strong it's being scattered. And for the red candle, it will be a similar color to, at least in the same hue as this color here. So I'm picking this, but I will desaturate it by quite a lot, and I will make the value 1. So this is pretty much the color I would say is the result when the candle would be on. Obviously a candle is a bit yellow, so it will tint the color a bit. So the candle here is not white, right? So that's why everything looks a bit more yellow than it would be. Just keep that in mind as well. In any case, if I now change my scale, let's say I put this to 0, this is now being treated as a fully diffuse object, like as if we would have just the base and now no subsurface scattering on, right? So let's look at especially these areas here. If I zoom in here and I crank up the scatter maybe to 0.1, you should now see that there is definitely more light being transmitted, and you can see the shadows here are not that black anymore. This might be still a bit too low, so what we can do, we can just boost it up a bit more like this, and now you can totally see that there's light passing through the object. Even on the shadow sides, you are getting now this rich red color. And this is pretty much subsurface scattering, and this is also what you would see behind your ear, right? So if you have a light passing through your behind your ears, you get this kind of, I'm not sure, you can see now that you get this kind of red blood colors through that. And this is the same effect here. And now you can see there's some kind of glossiness to this, but this one doesn't really have any glossiness. And this is just because my specular roughness is pretty high. So let's just reduce this to 0.2. And now you should see that we get this nice specular color, and we also get this nice color bleeding, right? So this is essentially what subsurface scattering is, and you can use that for all kind of different materials like green objects. You can plug in different maps in here if you want to get a different look. So yeah, but this is only covering the basics of these shaders. So I will not be going into real detail about how to create more complex shaders. I'm just going over the basics for this video. And what else? We've got Sheen, Emission, and Thin Film left. So let's jump into these guys. So first let's reset, go back to the base shader. We got this, this guy back. So what is Sheen? Sheen is pretty much a option in the shader which mimics micro fibers pretty much. So it's similar to what you would see on velvet or cloth or a dusty object. It's kind of when light hits the surface and there's, especially on the edges, some light is being reflected back to you. So you can see in the in my reference here, you can see that on the edges you get these kind of dust. It looks like there's some kind of coating on top, and you can see it here too, like this white or pinkish looking color. Not so apparent in this guy, but also on here you can see that in the center it's almost greenish, and then towards the edges you get this almost like as if it's dusted off. So let's just try to create this, right? So I want to pick my base color, which is this green here. Let's just pick that color. Picking it. On the top we should get that green. It's almost very similar to this. And now I think it's actually like sandblast glass or something. But anyways, so if I enable the sheen, I bring this guy to 1. You can see now we get this pretty much a very similar effect. We get this powdery white edge here, and then it goes across the surface. And the roughness in here just changes how strong this effect plays in. So the rougher you would make it, the more it will go over the surface, like this pretty much. So this feels now very dusty, as if you would touch it, you would almost feel it's like super soft or almost like fiery, I guess. And you can also have a color for this. So if I'm picking this green color, you can now see that it's now not white anymore. It's like some kind of soft greenish color. And obviously this modulation here is because there's some little stones in it or some kind of modulation. But I don't have that right now. But essentially this is the color you would get back. Let's just reset to base. And emission is pretty straightforward, which is our next thing. Emission we have on the right, which is kind of generating this kind of light from a texture, right? So this kind of effect, or like lava, for instance. All right, so how do we go about this? I think the first thing I want to show you is what it does. So if I bring in the weight up to 1, you can see now that it's actually emitting light. The floor here got lit up. So what I want to do fairly quick is just create some kind of pattern like this lava, for instance. So I'm just creating a very quick an AI noise, and I'm plugging this into the emission color. And I'm visualizing it like so, and then I'm bringing up the details here. Let's just make it super swirly like this. And now we can try to invert this. Okay, didn't do much. So what I want to do now is just create an AI range fairly quick and an AI color correct like that. And I just want to hook all these guys up. So color goes in here, the output goes into mask. My color will be, I think will be, what will it be? Let's keep the color to black and put this in here and check the range. Let's just clamp this slightly, so whatever is white will be glowing. So obviously you can stretch it if you want, like in the noise itself, like that. Maybe go 2, I don't know, something like that. So whatever is white will be glowing. And then in here, what we can do, we can just add a color like this. And we just fairly quick plug in just a noise into my add color in here. And this noise will be now my initial color for the glowiness, right? So I'm just picking this orange here. And I'm picking the yellow. Sorry, I'm rushing this, but this should just give you a rough idea of what I'm trying to do. Come on, what did I pick? Oh, a super bright value. It went above 1, that's why it was so weird. Okay, and we want to go more into red, orange, something like that. And now if I go to this, this is now my emission color, right? So my base color right now is super gray. That's why it's there. But essentially, this is now my rock, and I can use this. Maybe I can create a bump map quickly just to make the effect a bit nicer. Let's just do this. So now we should have a bump map 0.5. I just quickly wanted to show you something, so I didn't go into much detail here. But essentially you can see that there is some kind of bump on it now, some surface detail. And yeah, so this is, and you can see at the bottom here how it's emitting light. So if you want to have a stronger light source, you can just crank up those values here to get stronger light responses. And you can see now we got definitely more light at the bottom. And if I, let's say I just hide my skylight, you can see now that it's actually emitting light. So this would be a emissive texture, right? Okay, let's just disconnect these guys. So now we're back to our basic shader. And then the last step is thin film, which is also very interesting because thin film is like a phenomenon which happens in nature. It's kind of a code between a code which has a different index of refraction, and then the light is being broken up in that. And you can see it on like on insects quite apparently, like here on the shell, and here on discs, on objects, and on soap bubbles. And this is how it works. You have your base material, your base color, then you have the thin film layer, and then you have the coat on top. You can have the same without a coat. So I'm just showing you. Let's just do like a metal which has been like heated or something, which generates this kind of colored effect. So let's just bring a metal shader back, reduce the roughness like that. And now all you have to do, go to thin film and bring in a thickness. And this is in nanometers, this value here. I think it's ranging from 400 till like 1500 or something. So let's just try 450. And now you can already see now we get this kind of color there. And it's fairly similar to what you would see on those beetles here. You can change the IOR, which is the internal, this IOR in here. Metal, as I said, has a pretty high IOR. So just changing this will change the look for your thin film as well. And you get these different colors because there's a minimal different thickness in the shell here, and that's why you get these ridges of color. And you can definitely mimic that by just plugging in a map which changes the thickness, like from maybe 450 to 490. We can quickly do that with an AI range and an AI noise, as we did before. I just want to give you a fairly quick example of this, and we just plug this into the thin film thickness, and I think it's somewhere at the bottom, thin film thickness, like that. So right now, if I look at my values, we get values from 0.37 to maybe 0.7. And we definitely want to go more into the range of 450, right? So let's just increase our details here so we get a bit more interesting results. Maybe go up to 5. Yeah. And we can maybe stretch it as well. Not in this axis, but in this. Okay. Let's go higher in this. All right. So I have this now. So with the range, what I want to change is I want to change the output range to something crazy like 450 or something. So the white should be not 0.7, but it should be, let's say, 500. So the white, let's just see. So my maximum color is now 350, and my minimum should be, let's say, 450. So now my colors are ranging in between that range, and I'm looking at the bottom, right? So it's now 490, 460, and we can maybe go a bit higher on the output max. And now we have a nice range. So if I remove this isolate selected, you can now see that we have this kind of pattern in here, which is super cool. And if you now play it up with a bump map, so if I use a bump map on top of that, so my noise plus bump goes into the normal camera, like so. And now you can see we have a very similar pattern. Obviously it's not exact because we don't have the exact IOR of that little beetle, but you can totally shift the ranges. So right now we're on the 500 range. We can try maybe 800 and 700 or 200, and you see you get all these different effects, right? And then this is also dependent on the angle, so the color will change. And this is pretty much a soap bubble effect, or also called iridescence. So before finishing up this video, I just want to quickly show you again the nice book we have here. So you can totally see this is the website, which is about the book, about the authors, and actually just gives you more detail about what the book is. And you will get the link in the description below, so be sure to check that out as well. Here's my Patreon page where you can see all the different tiers I'm having on my side. So I've got the 59, which is actually for all the source materials I have created in previous videos and all in the future videos. So once you sign up for this guy, you have access to pretty much all the source files I ever uploaded. And then at the bottom here I have my private lesson mentorship tier, which will help you to get in direct contact with me. And if you want some more direct help, if you have really issues with some scenes or just don't understand certain workflows, this is the thing for you to sign up for, and I can give you some in-depth information. And I guess a few of you guys know that already. I'm on Instagram. Here's my feed. I do some photography as well as doing rendering, so check that out if you want to. And obviously on Twitter, where I have more like the 3D related things, like retweeting nice articles and sharing stuff. So I guess you all know how that works. Yeah, so this was a basic introduction again to the standard surface shader, which is now available with Maya directly. And also this stuff is interchangeable with different DCCs like Houdini, Cinema 4D, so they all work together, 3ds Max for the Archviz stuff. So just keep that in mind. Here again is the book. I really love the content. It's really good quality. The prints are amazing. And yeah, and also I want to thank my patrons, which have been supporting me a long while now, and it's just super nice to have the support on the Patreon side. And also there's a little Slack channel as well for you guys to join if you want to have like a little community about my stuff, I guess. So yeah, I hope you liked that I'm in the videos now. I think it adds a nice little touch to everything. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I will be working on the next tutorial right now, which is the bit more advanced basic shading setup for this Lego truck I set up. And to give you a quick introduction or a quick snippet of the result, this is what the final result looks like in a sunny environment and in a studio environment. So this will be my next tutorial, and I hope this will definitely cover the basics, what we did today, and a bit more advanced stuff like plugging in textures, adding some modulation, some color jitters, and some more advanced stuff. So this will be in my next tutorial coming up very soon. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I will see you in the next tutorial.